Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming, and anybody that may be watching online or viewing later. This is the December 15th land use portion of our regular BOCC meeting. We went into recess this morning, so we'll be coming out of recess at 1 p.m. And Amanda, could you call the roll, please? Here.
Here. Here.
All righty. Looks like we're all here on both sides of the desk. So we got 5 items before us today. One, the Miller Ranch Service Plan amendments will be opened and continued until January 12th. It's really just to open and set a date. So if you are here to speak on that, we really won't be hearing that today. The other items are final plats for Independence Filing 2 and 3, a rezone for the Potter property, a rezone to accommodate what was once an SUR and is now becoming a separate property for the Mountain Tower east of I-70, and an EDZ site plan for Burnco in the Prairie View industrial site. All of the hearings will generally follow the same scheme. The staff will present the application along with a recommendation. We may have questions for staff at that time. We'll invite the applicant to provide any additional information. Again, we may have questions. At that point, we'll open it up for public comment, give the opportunity for applicant, staff, or ourselves to respond to whatever we hear in public comment, and then we'll consider a decision, and the decision can be either to approve with recommendations, deny, or continue if we don't feel that we have the information that we need to make a final decision. So that's kind of the scheme for each one of them. But the first items we have up is filings 2 and 3 for the Independence subdivision. And Jen, I believe you're the planner, and we'll leave ourselves in your capable hands.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good afternoon. My name is Jen Click. I'm a land use planner here with Elbert County, and we are going to look at the final plats for Independence filings 2 and 3.
Then I'm going to interrupt you because the one thing I failed to do is actually open the hearing. So I would accept a motion to open the hearing on Independence filing 2 and 3 final plats.
I'll make a motion. We open the hearing on Independence filings 2 and 3 final plat, FP -21-0045 and FP 21-0046.
Second.
A motion and second to open public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're in public hearing. Maybe in the next 3 years I'll get this right.
So again, the case numbers for those are FP 210045 and 0046. And it is for final plat approvals for 136 single-family residence lots on filing 2 and 232 lots on filing 3. We are joined today by representatives of the landowners Kraft Bandera Acquisition. Our applicant was Jim Yates, and we're looking at the property north of the intersection of County Road 5 and County Road 158. They did file their formal application. First for filing 2, May 19th, and filing 3 on July 22nd. They did the corresponding referral process, each going through one referral only, and our PC was heard on November 16th. So as you see, this is a continuation of Independence PUD. Filing 2 is to the south and west of filing 1, and filing 3 being to the north-northeast. Here we have wetlands. Very little wetlands exist in the area, but as I will mention later, any issues in the wetland areas were taken into consideration during the original preliminary plat, and any concerns were worked out through a series of drainage easements, open space, and detention areas. This is our lot layout on filing 2, immediately to the west of filing 1. And filing 3, again, to the north and northeast, 232 lots. The single referral came back responses from this collection of agencies. The following comments have been acknowledged by the applicant. CORE mentioned that they needed some exhibit markups that needed to be addressed. Elizabeth Fire said the fire department access road is approved but shall be operational until a secondary access is approved. A plan needs to be in place to provide designators along the trail for emergency response to incidents on the trail, and a layer of that needs to be submitted to the fire district for integration into their CAD maps. Otherwise, no objections were raised during referral. The county's review criteria looks at a number of detailed elements of the project, the first of which is whether our subdivider has provided evidence that we have water supply, and it has the subdividers provided a will serve letter for filing 2 and filing 3 from the Independence Water and Sanitation District, and the district has previously provided proof of the supply that was deemed sufficient and approved by the Colorado Division of Water Resources for the whole PUD. Again, this is for sewage disposal, and that same will serve letter applies for both filing 2 and 3 for sanitation as well. Whether the subdivider has provided evidence for any hazards that might be represented by soil or topological conditions. Elbert County Engineer Sean O'Hearn had previously reviewed the geotech report dated April 20th of 2006 as a part of filing 1 and indicated that there were no topographical conditions that presented hazards or that required special precautions. Since then, Jill Carlson of the Colorado Geological Survey has no problem with that report, but recommended that new sampling and testing be completed to confirm the correct excavation and backfill method and to guide foundation requirements. Criteria 4 is looking at our zoning and subdivision regulations, and we find that the proposed application is in compliance with the requirements outlined in the current Elbert County subdivision regulations, and the proposed application is also in compliance with the zoning regulations. Criteria 5, we find that the proposal supports the comprehensive plan through the following goals and policies. The residential development goal and is supported by encouraging a range of lot sizes and residential densities associated with available roads and infrastructure, and also encouraging the designation of open space and preservation of areas of visual, historic, and natural consequence. Policies that support that are RD2, which preserves open space and clustered residential development. And also supported by goal of economic growth here in Elbert County. The policy EG6 says that the county should support the development of agriculture, commerce, industry, education, health, natural resource development, tourism, and residential growth. The transportation goal mentions policy TR1 that recommends that new development is encouraged to locate proximate to improved arterial roads, or that those roads should be provided by the developer, which is the case here. TR3 mentions coordinating and planning development review with applicable referral agencies, which we have done thoroughly for the entirety of Independence. And TR4, that the paving of major collectors in new and existing subdivision roads should be encouraged, which we have also done for the entirety of Independence. So Community and Development Services recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve the requested final plats for filings 2 and 3 under the following conditions. Please note that these conditions are the updated conditions as attached to your packet and do not necessarily reflect the entirety of those conditions considered at the Planning Commission. So the first three are our standard: remove our sign, pay all the fees required, and record within 180 days. Condition 4 is that the applicant will follow the recommendations and requirements of Elizabeth Fire Protection as outlined in the letters dated 6/4/21 and 7/21/21 and pay any required fees due to the district. Condition 5, the applicant shall pay any applicable fees to the Elizabeth School District, C1. 6, prior to construction, the applicant shall follow the recommendations of Colorado Parks and Wildlife in its letter dated May 24th, 2017, specifically looking at pronghorn burrowing owls and raptor nests. And they need to follow the recommended survey protocol and actions to protect those nesting burrowing owls. Condition 7, prior to construction, the applicant shall apply to Elbert County Department of Public Works for grading permits and public or private improvement permits. 8, prior to approval of the grading permit or public-private improvement permit for any given portion of the property, the applicant shall receive a 404 permit from the United States Army Corps of Engineers for any disturbance to jurisdictional wetlands in such portion of the property for which the grading permit is sought. Condition 9, prior to obtaining any building permits, the developer shall follow the recommendations of the Colorado Geological Survey in the letter dated March 1st, 2017. And condition 10, I apologize for the smaller font size. We're going to request that prior to applying for building permits within these filings, filing 2 and 3 of Independence PUD, either the associated roads must be inspected and accepted by the county into the 2-year warranty period, or as previously agreed in Section 5 of the original SIA dated 7 September 2017, the subdivider must offer security or collateral in the amount of 115% of the total cost of the improvements within a phase to assure completion of all or any portion of the public improvements in that phase. The full language can be found in the original SIA. That such collateral will only be accepted as a full or partial release of plat restriction if Elbert County Public Works signs off on the availability of appropriate emergency access within that portion of the filing for which the collateral is offered. Thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to you, Chris.
Any questions for staff? Okay, just a couple quick. I think probably just an error on the slide, but I'm assuming the Planning Commission recommendation was also to approve.
The Planning Commission recommended 5-0.
Okay, and then just so it's on the record, the number of homes mentioned in filing 2 and 3 are within the 920 total density that was
That's correct.
approved back in, I guess, is Bandera in 2008-ish.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, with that, I'd invite the applicant or representative to provide any additional information they'd like us to have.
I'm a land use planner and lawyer with the firm of Ott & Johnson, and I've got the privilege of being here this afternoon representing craft companies in its continued build out of the Independence community. Before we get started, I certainly want to say thank you to your professional staff. It is a pleasure working with them, and they've done a really good job of reviewing this project. And so my goal in this presentation is not to repeat anything that they've said, because I think they've covered this well. We are joined here by a good team of people who have worked on this project as it's continued to develop over the years. We have representatives from craft companies. Jim Yates is here. Norris Design, which is responsible for the landscape architecture and planning of the project. Mark Kiefer is here, and he'll be joining me and giving a little bit of this presentation. Rob Hansen with CORE is our civil engineer and can certainly answer any technical engineering questions that you have. And Gina Burke is here from Gene Water Consultants and can answer any water questions that you might have. My goal today is just talk a little bit about the background of where we're at and how we got here, just probably more for the benefit of those gathered here, since you all are familiar with this project. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the land plan and just kind of show you a few of the kind of features of filings 2 and 3. And I'll also cover some of the questions that we got from the Planning Commission, just so you kind of can hear those questions and what our answers are. I know that you all are aware of how this process works, and again, this is really more kind of for the benefit of everybody that's gathered here today. But this is obviously a technical approval. It's a final plat, and so this is not an opportunity to revisit the zoning or the densities or the setbacks and all the development standards. This is really just sort of the final step of the county's process in getting these 2 filings ready to be built. And so looking back at the zoning of the property, the Independence PUD, or what was the Bandera PUD, was approved by an earlier collection of this board in 2009 that allows for 920 residential units, as Commissioner Richardson, you referenced, with the associated public improvements that are required in connection with the development of a project of that size. 1 filing has already been platted, and that allowed for the development of 328 lots, and so there's already a community there of houses, and people are living there and enjoying the community as we understand it. And so the plats that are before you today contemplate 368 additional lots, again, all within that 920 that are allowed by the PUD. And then these plats also will provide for public land dedications, for open space and parks and public streets, and also include several of the public improvements obligations associated with the project, including the build out of those streets. So we're really not changing anything that's already been approved in the past. This is about just another technical approval to get these 2 filings ready to be constructed. Jen did a really good job of walking through your approval criteria. I think it's important to look at kind of what the purpose of the final plat process is. Really what you're looking for is it consistent with the previous approvals that have been given, so the PUD and the preliminary plat, and then have we taken into account all the recommendations that have come in from the various referral agencies? I think Jen spoke to that. I'll be happy to answer any questions about that. And then is it consistent with the legal documentation, including the subdivision improvements agreement, which was approved with filing 1 and will continue to apply with filings 2 and 3. And so our position certainly is that we are consistent with all these prior approvals. We've taken into account the recommendations of the referral agencies. Those have been incorporated into the conditions that are in front of you today. And then we've got that subdivision improvements agreement that will provide for the construction of all those public improvements. Because Jen did such a good job of walking through the specific approval criteria for a plat, I'm not going to repeat all that. I think we agree with her analysis, but certainly we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about that. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over briefly to Mark Kiefer with Norris Design, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the planning values and the plan itself for these 2 filings.
Thank you, Brian. Again, my name is Mark Kiefer. I'm with the firm Norris Design. And Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I want to thank you for this time to hear our project and also wish you an early Merry Christmas. It's hard to believe that it's upon us already, but we only have a couple more days left of this year, it seems. So, but as Brian said, I also get the opportunity to reiterate some of the things that your staff has said, and I want to also reiterate how helpful they have been in guiding us through this process for the past several months. So it's a tribute to the professionalism of your staff that have gotten us this far, and I think you're in good hands in terms of how these projects are being managed in Elbert County. So with that, I'm sorry. Just want to start with this slide here just to kind of go over our core values. These are what we're referring to as our core planning values. These are the values that are the beliefs that we started with in the design of this project a little over a year ago. But most importantly, I want to say that these are values that are strong beliefs that are held by our client, craft companies, when they start developing these types of projects and other projects in the area, that these are the values that they start out with on every project. First and foremost, I want to just point out that, there's three of them, conservation, smart growth, and being a strong community partner. The conservation aspect of this is really important, especially in this particular environment, in that we are endeavoring to preserve water, views, and the landscape on this particular site. You'll note, if you haven't seen this project in some time, but the PUD in particular has a large percentage of this land being preserved as open space, coupled with the fact that there's an innovative water reclamation conservation program already in place for the existing subdivision filing 1, which is going to be applied through the rest of the project. So with that, I'd say that conservation is probably one of the stronger elements of what we had set up in terms of originally revisiting this whole plan, the old Bandera plan, and then bringing it forth with these subdivision plats. The second idea is smart growth, and the term smart growth has a lot of meanings for a lot of different people, but my client and also our team that worked on this, we really like to reframe that as being sort of a legacy issue. Smart growth is really about a legacy because it's creating a community that's going to last for multiple generations. And what we're putting together here is a subdivision or a project, a community, that will allow for future generations to actually enjoy these open spaces, trails, and things like that. So I think that's the fundamental issue about smart growth that oftentimes is overlooked. There's certainly a lot of new aspects of this project that are being presented in terms of construction, street design, things like that. But the overall thing is to make it a place that is livable and comfortable for existing and future generations. The last thing, being a strong community partner, I think that this is probably one of the most important things to Mr. Kraft and our client in participating in the local community. They currently work with approximately 50 other organizations, nonprofits, school district, fire district, local businesses, in order to support local progress, if you will, and emphasize the importance of this particular area and Elbert County in general. So I think that what you have here is with the craft companies, a strong player that will continue to support you in Elbert County as well as all these other organizations in the area. So with that, I just want to go over just a brief overview again, and I think your staff has covered this fairly well. But the overall plan right now, as you see, we're currently about halfway through this project. With the approval of these two plats, we're approximately halfway done with the PUD Independence. Filing 1, you can see on the lower right rather, you can see a substantial amount of open space in that project. And you'll note that if you haven't been out there lately, there are about 130 homes already built out there. Much of the infrastructure is in place. So it's ready to start developing into these future filings 2 and 3. I also want to emphasize, too, that each of these, what we're calling subdivisions in this discussion, or filings, these are actually neighborhoods. That's how we designed this project in terms of bringing forth what we consider a strong sense of community in the future. So each of these filings are basically identified as particular neighborhoods. So when a person moves into that, or a family moves into that, they'll know approximately where they live, and they can tell other neighbors where their home is in proximity to the rest of the project. I think that's important for all of Elbert County as well, because I think there's a lot of strong identification with the various subdivisions and developments in the area, that this helps further identify these areas as being an important place to live and create that legacy that I mentioned before. As you can see, too, when you look at the green area on this particular overall plan, we're still maintaining what the original commitment and the original promise made with this PUD is about 50% of the land being preserved as open space. These open spaces are connected with individual parks within these particular subdivisions as well. So a whole system of trails are also being proposed within the subdivision plat that connects all of these areas and all the views in that particular project over, in the overall development of the Independence project itself. Looking specifically at what we have right now in filing 1, we have about 4 builders currently active, 4 major builders in filing 1. And as I mentioned before, about 130 homes either under construction, and about 100 of those almost are occupied right now by people that you'll see out there today. If you haven't had a chance to go out there, you'll see kids playing out there. You'll see families, young families moving in, a variety of folks just starting to come into Elbert County, new timers to Elbert County that have chosen this area, chosen Elbert County as their lifestyle of choice. And we consider that being important moving forward with the rest of this project and future projects in Elbert County as well. So again, what you're seeing right now are, like I said, young families, and some of those include teachers, folks that are working in this community in Kiowa and Elizabeth and places like that. These are people that are actually buying into this project right now. So with that, I just also wanted to point out too that when we start developing these individual neighborhoods, each one of them are still focused on that original filing 1. That's our entry into the overall area. Part of that, and I'm just going to go back to that one slide, part of that includes a clubhouse facility and some other landmarks that were on that property to begin with. So each of our filings, each of our neighborhoods will constantly relate back to that initial entry into that filing 1 or that first neighborhood. Filing 2, just want to go over real quickly what that entails right now. As has been described already, this is 2 particular projects up for hearing tonight, or this afternoon. Filing 2 is a smaller one that's located along Highway 158 or Hilltop Road. You'll see a substantial amount of open space along Hilltop, approximately 325 feet of a setback from that road. So there's a fairly large swath of open space along the highway there, or along that road, that would be buffering future residents, as well as creating a sizable setback from our neighbors across Hilltop as well. And you can also see in there the individual little green spaces. Those are actually developed parks or for families and picnic areas and things like that. In this particular site, in this particular neighborhood, about 49% of it is preserved as open space, parks and open space. Filing 3 to the north is, again, a continuation of a lot of that open space planning that had been done on filing 1, with 232 lots. These particular sites are a little bit larger than what we would find in filing 2. And as my colleague Brian will describe in a minute, these lots also include the provision for RV parking within that site. Not RVs individually, but for homeowners that have RVs where they could actually park on their site, which I think is a very important aspect of development in this particular area, because a lot of our future customers and buyers are people that do drive RVs. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Brian for a few closing remarks. We'll be available for any questions as well, so thank you.
Thanks, Mark. So yeah, just a few closing comments. The first is one of your approval criteria references water. Obviously, this has been a topic of a lot of discussion in the past about this project, and I do want to just reiterate that there is a will serve letter from the Independence Water and Sanitation District that ensures that these new lots will be provided with water, that they have adequate water to serve the lots, and of course all of the water rights have been adjudicated and decreed to support the PUD. So we think we've addressed that question. And then finally, just some of the responses to the questions that the Planning Commission asked, I think just for your benefit so you know what they asked and what we answered. So we did get some questions about water rights and the water system for the property or for the project. The first was, what are the permitted uses of the water that's been adjudicated and decreed, and what is that? How does that relate back to the PUD? The short answer is, I think as you all know, the PUD is what controls the land uses on the property. Irrespective of what the water rights have been decreed for, whether it's for domestic use, for agricultural use, for industrial use, that's all controlled by the PUD. And so the water consultant that Kraft has worked with got those water rights decreed for all uses, as is typical with any type of project like this. But the land uses are controlled by the PUD, and any change to that would need to come in front of this board for approval. We also received a question about sale of off-site water and whether that's possible. The service plan for the Independence Water and Sanitation District, which again was approved by the Board of County Commissioners, does not allow the off-site sale of water from this property. So we think we've addressed that concern. And then there was also a question about whether the water rights allow for continued irrigation and agricultural uses, and they indeed do. So the parts of the property that are not developed will continue to be used for agricultural purposes. As Mark mentioned, we received a question about housing product type and RV lots. We're not doing a campground here, so the RV lots are really lots that do support RV parking, in some cases having higher garage heights so they can be parked inside a garage. We did receive a question also about attainable housing. Many of the folks who have purchased houses in Independence, as Mark mentioned, are teachers, are frontline workers. We have a number of veteran families, and so there was a question about, will housing continue to be attainable to those folks? We obviously, as part of a land use approval like this one, we cannot commit to a specific price point. The price point of the houses are driven by materials costs, by construction costs, labor costs, and then obviously those are individual builders that are building that product. But to be clear, Independence is actually one of the most affordable new communities along the Front Range, and we're really proud of that. And I think it shows, given the folks who have chosen to make Independence their home. And then finally, we had a question about the SIA, and the SIA has some provisions about impact fees. There is a provision in there that says that no impact fees that are given to the sheriff's office will be reimbursed to the developer, and wanted some confirmation on that, and that's true, that any impact fees that are paid to the sheriff's office are not subject to any reimbursement. So just wanted you all to have the details on those questions and answers that we provided. So with that said, we really appreciate your time today, and thank you for all that you do for Elbert County. And we are certainly, as a team, happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions at this time?
I've got one quick question. County Road 5 and then interconnect with Delbert Road. What's the timing on that?
So I will, I'll ask Jim Yates to answer that question. I don't know the exact timing on it.
Hi, this is Jim Yates with Kraft Companies. We literally just picked up the plan set today. We're mobilizing now. We want to get started on that, and we think it's about a year of construction. So that answer your question, or?
Sort of, because that's an important interconnection in my mind. And if I remember right, when we first approved this, there was a threshold number when that had to be completed. And I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find it. What was that threshold?
That was, you recall it? 371 permits.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate the presentation. As you said, it's for plats, it's generally the technical approval. I don't have any questions at this time, but I would open up for public comment at this time if there is any. Ma'am? And Diana, just name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Diana Edstrom, County Road 26060, Elbert. The only thing I wanted to bring up was the list of property owners that was in the packet that would have received mailed notification. And when I took a look at the list provided in the packet and compared it with assessor records, I found that there were 13 property owners that were not on that list. So my question, I guess, or my comment would be, if that happens to be the case, if somebody looks at that and can confirm that, would this not have been a improperly noticed meeting in front of the Planning Commission, and would it not have to go back to the Planning Commission to be heard again? And just one other note, that Planning Commission hearing on November 16th, there's no public record of that meeting. It was not recorded either by video or audio, and there are no minutes. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment at this time, and just to briefly respond, the record of the meeting will be the minutes once they're considered and adopted by the Planning Commission. As for the mail notice, and I'd look to staff to confirm, but I believe our regulations require that a list of property owners be received or generated by the assessor at the time application is made. As you heard, it's a very active development. It's probably not surprising that 13 properties may have changed hands between the time application was made, and I don't remember the date, but it was quite a ways back because this was a pretty extensive application with lengthy referrals that the number of those properties and parcels changed hands prior to whenever you may have looked at the current assessor record. So I truly doubt anybody moved into Independence and thought that construction had stopped at that point. So, but that's my understanding of it, and staff could confirm if that's...
That's correct. The only required list of property owners is at that time of formal application, which for filing 2 was mid-May and filing 3 was mid to late July. And notification was based on the assessor's information at that time. The project itself is based on filing 1 amendment 2, and that information was not actually recorded with the clerk and recorder until after that formal application. So that map reflected the earlier information.
That makes sense. As I said, 13 in an active development this size isn't too, I mean, doesn't terribly concern me tremendously, and I know the assessors, there's always going to be a time lag even if somebody's closing on a home today. There's going to be a time lag before the assessor gets that into its record. So, but appreciate that. Any other questions or comments at this time?
Just taking what you said there, 13 homes over 130 homes, so that's 10%. For that to be changing hands when something's this active is not surprising.
I guess Brian is representative. I do have one question, and that would be, there was a fairly extensive list of conditions. Have you had a chance to look at those, and are those acceptable?
They are acceptable. I would note that on the presentation, condition number 2 referenced rezoning, and I think you said the rezoning would not be effective. I think you meant subdivision plat. So
That's correct. Yeah.
That. But yes, we agree to all those. I would also just note on the notice that the property was posted with notice as well, so any new resident who was in the community would have seen the posting as it was right at the entrance to the community.
I appreciate that. So there's no final comments, or I would accept a motion to approve with the conditions with the one change that was mentioned from rezone to final plat.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Independence Filing 2 and 3 final plat FP 21-0045 and FP 21-0046 with the accepted conditions of approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the filing 2 and 3 final plats for Independence with the conditions as discussed. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we close the hearing on Independence filing 2 and 3 final plat FP-21-0045 and 0046.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We are out of public hearing on this item. We'll take a 5-minute recess and let you folks clear if you don't want to stay for the other 4. No, appreciate very much, and thank you for the comments on behalf of the staff. It's a power I wish I had over others, but use it wisely. Okay, the time is now 1:47. We're coming out of recess. The next item on the agenda is the Potter rezone. I would accept a motion to open public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the hearing on Potter rezone -20-0012.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open public hearing on the Potter rezone. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. We're in public hearing. Again, same general format. Staff will present. We'll invite the applicant, any public comment, and then proceed to a decision. So, Matthew, the floor is yours.
Sure. I'm Matthew, land use planner with Community and Development Services. I will be presenting the Potter rezone, case number RZ200012. And this is a request to rezone approximately 40.37 acres from agriculture to agriculture residential. The landowner is Kathleen Potter and the applicant representative is Steve Potter. The location is 109 Bozeman Trail, Elizabeth, right outside the Chisholm subdivision, and there's a concurrent minor plat application, MP200013. A pre-application meeting for this project was held on February 20th of 2020, and a formal application was submitted this year, April 6th of 2021. There's one referral period from May 5th to May 26th of 2021. This proposal was heard by the Planning Commission on November 16th, where the Planning Commission recommended approval of the rezone request, and we're here today for the BOCC December 15th. To outline this a little bit, to the left here we have the Douglas County line abutting roughly 120 acres of an overlying property. Surrounded in red is the 40 acres that is subject to this request. And as for zoning, there's a mixture of different zoning types within the area, with the Chisholm subdivision being zoned RA for similarly sized 10-acre parcels, some undeveloped ag parcels surrounding the general vicinity, with the Wild Point residential subdivision coming down, which you'll see on the north there as well as a PUD. This is a general site plan layout of the 4 lots. We are looking at a little bit of an angle here, with the north being to the left. Access will come off Bozeman Trail within the Chisholm subdivision. We'll ride the southern property line and then go north towards the 4th lot on the north. Following the Planning Commission, we looked into a potential access issue that might still be in existence. Upon investigating an ingress-egress easement that had been recorded previously, there were revisions made by the applicant to ensure that the roadway that would be accessing Bozeman Trail for the subdivision that would fall entirely within that ingress-egress location. During the referral process, we reached out to these following agencies and received responses. All of the issues that might have been raised during that time had been addressed before scheduling this meeting here. When it comes to review criteria, I'll run through the 6 criteria that we have for rezone requests. The first being whether the rezoning conforms to the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan, and more specifically, it relates to policy RD1, PS1, TR2, WS4, and EN1. And whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. As I covered before, the Chisholm subdivision being a relatively 10-ish acre subdivision for the most part, that this consistency will be met in that regard. Item C, whether the rezoning would adversely impact public services. We found that the proposed lots will have adequate public services available to them based on the referral process, and that their minor subdivision overall will not strain these services. Whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment, we believe the Chisholm subdivision immediately to the east kind of sets that precedent that this type of use and this type of lot size would be applicable in this area as well. Whether the proposed rezoning would create unreasonable traffic congestion, given the fact that this is a 120-acre lot and the development patterns in this area and what we have received from Public Works from the referral process, we do not believe that traffic congestion will be added to in this area. Also, final criteria, whether the proposed rezoning will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of future inhabitants and current inhabitants of Elbert County. Through the review process, we have not found anything that would contradict that or create any issues to our residents. So with that in mind, Community and Development Services recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve the requested Potter rezone RZ 200012, subject to the following conditions. And our standard conditions being that the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of this decision. The rezoning shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezoning exhibit is recorded. And in general, the recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioners' approval. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Matthew. Do you have any questions or comments? Yeah, just two quick ones. Again, I believe the Planning Commission recommendation was also approval. And were there any issues that came up during Planning Commission?
There was one comment about potential school service and impact fees regarding that for school service. I had done some investigating into that and found that the Elizabeth School District didn't reply in that instance, whereas I reached out to the school district and then they provided their generic letter that they provide to new subdivisions within the Elizabeth School District.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then I think I saw in there, but when they adjusted the road to fit within that easement, the fire district was okay with the turning radius on.
Yeah, there were no changes to the turning radius.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, with that, I would invite the applicant or representative to provide any additional information they might want us to have. Present or? Oh, sir, yes, thank you. Yeah, if you don't mind, if you've got anything you'd like to add, or at least we can ask you, we need to at least formally ask you about the conditions of approval. Okay. All righty, I think it's we're really just talking the rezone, not the subdivision piece at this time, so it's relatively straightforward, but is there anything you'd like to add to what Matthew provided?
All the homes that are built there will have fire sprinklers in them. So we did that with the fire department, just to kind of make sure that we don't have fires out there.
Okay, you're kind of on the edge of.
Yeah, because we're on the edge.
You're very much on the edge of their response area, so thank you for that. For the conditions that were mentioned, you're good with those, okay?
All good to go.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And they did a great job.
All right. I would open this up for public comment at this time. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is there any final questions or comments?
I have no questions.
Okay. I don't have either. As I said, right now it's the consideration of the rezone piece, and then it'll proceed to subdivision. So with that, I would accept a motion to approve the Potter rezone with the conditions presented.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Potter RZ-20-0012.
Second.
And with the conditions as presented.
Second that too.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the subdivision Potter rezones, Potter rezone with the condition as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing on this item at this time.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing on Potter RZ-20-0012.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing on the Potter rezone. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All righty. The next item we have up is the Mountain Tower rezone that's, I believe, Matthew, you have this one as well? All righty. Again, this is a rezone to a PUD, really just to accommodate, I believe, the sale of a parcel that was leased and had an SUR. Yeah. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is Matthew again with Community and Development Services for the Mountain Tower rezone to PUD case number, pardon me?
Open it. Okay. Again, my, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna recuse myself from this one, since I had done some prior work on the tower and stuff before I knew it was coming for the board, and I had reviewed their deeds and stuff. So I'm gonna recuse myself from this action.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the Mountain Tower RZ-21-0065 rezone application.
Okay. I will second that. So, all in favor of opening? So
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. Please continue, Matthew.
Absolutely. This is the Mountain Tower rezone to PUD, case number RZ-21-0065. And this is a request to rezone 11 acres of a 561-acre property from agriculture to planned unit development, PUD. The landowner in this situation is Fraser Farms, and the applicant representative for this project is Kyle DiNardo of Industrial Tower West, LLC. The location, given the size of the property, takes up the entirety of Section 7 of Township 8 South and Range 57 West. This is approximately located about 4 miles north-northeast of the State Highway 86 and I-70 interchange. There is a concurrent minor plat with this project as well, case number MP210067. Pre-application meeting was held on May 20th of 2021. A formal application was submitted on September 27th of 2021, and there was a single referral process from September 27th to October 18th. The public hearing dates are correct. Planning Commission recommended approval 5-0 on November 16th of 2021, and the BOCC were here today, December 15th. An aerial map that we have here is the entirety of that Section 7, and a smaller yellow area, which I have highlighted in the image on the right, is the area of the rezone request. In general, the properties in this area are large like this, whole sections, and this one will be a smaller 11-acre piece in the corner, accessed by County Road 183. The zoning in this area, which ties into the reason why this is a PUD request, I'll cover this now. We're looking at some fairly large properties, and our zoning regulations are confined to ag properties being larger than 35 acres. Previous discussions had occurred that we considered a commercial recommendation here, but realistically the use is what we're more concerned of when it comes to the approvals and the legacy in this area. A tower is approved by an SUR that was approved in 1998, so the tower has been operating there since then, and it's a matter of would we want a commercial 11-acre property in this portion of the county, or would we rather have a district that supports a telecommunications use for the property of this size and in this area? And also to note the little odd color that we're seeing a little bit to the right of there, that's one of the properties that the county, it's not zoned within the county, and is one of the parcels that needs to be formally zoned by Elbert County. Just to look at the site plan a little bit, one of the most important considerations from the zoning regulations, that standpoint, is that a tower cannot be taller than its distance to the property line, and that was the main condition met by this proposal here, that the tower is 330 feet in height and it's at least 340 feet from all of the surrounding property lines. There are pre-existing easements in place that allow the property to be accessed from the east, both with Fraser Farms and the Kuhn family, which is directly to the east as well. From the referral process, we heard from these following 6 agencies, and they expressed no objection to this project. Now for the review criteria, this is to Article 7, which is planned unit developments. The following criteria were considered. Apologies for the inconsistency between the number and the lettering. It's 6 criteria nonetheless. Whether the proposed rezoning conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. In this instance, the comprehensive plan doesn't exactly apply to this request here. Whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with the surrounding land uses. If we were rezoning this to agriculture, residential, or commercial, there might be more of an issue than by doing a planned unit development that is confined to the telecommunications use. Given the size of that property, we wanted to make sure that the request that's being heard here is the most applicable. Whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services, because there's no proposed changes to the use on this property. Even for both of these criteria here, because there's no changes being proposed and the applicant does not have any interest in making any changes to this property or the special use that was approved previously, neither of these are concerns by CDS staff. Whether the proposed rezoning would create unreasonable traffic congestion, again, the maintenance levels that have been in place since 1998 are not expected to change at this time. And whether the proposed rezoning will not be otherwise detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of the county. Same message. We do not anticipate anything changing to that with this approval. With that in mind, the Community and Development Services Department recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve the requested Mountain Tower rezone to PUD RZ210065, subject to the following conditions. The applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of this decision. The rezone to PUD shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezone to PUD exhibit is recorded. Recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioner approval. And the final condition being the rezone to PUD exhibit will be updated by the applicant to conform with Article 7 of the zoning regulations. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions or comments? No, I'll just wait for the applicant. Okay. Same question. Like I said, I believe the Planning Commission recommended approval on any issues that came up during that.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Industrial Tower West. I appreciate staff for that presentation. We have reviewed the conditions of approval, and at this time, those are acceptable. The one thing I did want to add is, along with our closing with Fraser Farms, we have an additional access easement coming from the south that is solely within their property. We do have a leased access easement from the neighboring property to the east. That goes until 2038, but until any deals or anything is figured out with that, we wanted to make sure we had a permanent access into our site. Other than that, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you guys.
Any questions? I really do have none at this time. I would open this for public comment at this point. Diana?
Diana Edstrom, 26060 County Road 41, Elbert. And if before you start my time, I had sent in documentation that I asked to be included in the record for today. So I'd like to confirm you have that before.
Yeah, we did receive it, and we'll make sure it is part of the permanent file on this.
Okay. Well, I've got a bunch here, so I'll try and talk as fast as I can. The rezone to PUD, there is conflicting information in the packet as to what they're doing. There's multiple locations which are in the information I sent that say it's a rezone to commercial. There's other places where it says it's a rezone to a PUD. If it isn't, and that includes the plat, that still says commercial. There's more issues with the plat. But if that is the case, that it's a rezone to PUD, then that process I don't see the documents in here that are specific to rezoning to PUD per the zoning regulations. I would bring that up. So quickly, there was not a list and map of property owners in the packet that was presented to the Planning Commission, which that is a required packet. If they didn't ask about it, which it sounds like there were no comments, that's concerning. I think Matt had put a list of the property owners up on the website, and looking through that, some of the addresses on here are cut off. They're not legible, they're not complete, they don't comply with the assessor records. As far as making this a PUD, and that's the comment about commercial, Sterling Tower Properties is within the 1,320 feet. They're on the list, they're on the map. They are zoned as C. I'm assuming based on their name that they are some type of a communications tower, as well as based on the picture in the assessor document. They're 13.75 acres. So I'm just curious why we're going with PUD when that does not sound like it applies to this, when they could go with commercial, I would assume. Will the SUR that is existing right now with the existing property, is that going to be vacated? How am I doing on time here? I guess I'm doing okay. The first referral that was in the packet, there were a whole bunch of comments in there that did not appear to have been addressed when I looked at the documents in the packet. And that included things like correcting issues on the plat, putting proper names in, adding places for the commissioners to sign. It was not, again, in compliance with zoning, but I did not see that there was a response from the applicant on the questions that were part of the referral process. And
Commissioner says 3 minutes.
okay. There's issues, I'd ask you to look at it before you approve it. Thank you.
Well, I would say that Matthew did cover the reason that we went to PUD versus commercial on this application, that zoning it commercial leaves it open to any use by right in commercial, and the intent was to maintain simply the use as a telecommunications tower, and that's what the PUD is, a one-off zoning that allows you to very specifically tailor what the uses can be on a rezone. I would say as for what is required for an application versus what is put in the packet, there is no regulatory requirement on what is presented in the packet versus what's provided to the staff for application. A listing of addresses to notice, I'm quite positive, and I'll let Matt speak to any of these as well. It was obviously provided to staff because he had it to publish in our packet, and as you said, was also published on the website. So the account, though the addresses may be cut off, the account numbers are clearly legible. So if somebody wanted to double check an address on the assessor's record, that's pretty easy to pull. You have any comments, Matt? There's a laundry list there, but.
Yeah, those items weren't included with the packet. However, I have received affidavits from the applicant indicating that the times that are listed within the staff report are correct.
Okay, thank you. And I believe the process for rezone is relatively consistent regardless of what the rezone action is and the considerations for rezone.
That's correct. There's a few other items that I believe I've heard of between landscape plans, photometric plans, but in this particular situation where the use isn't changing, there's no proposed changes to the property, those items aren't exactly applicable to this request. CDS did not feel like those items would be necessary in the review or approval of this application.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
The only comment I have, if I read this thing correctly, that tower's been there for 23 years. And its use has not changed at any point during that time. And that all that's going on is that the owner of the tower wants to own the land beneath it. And they're going, and if I did my calculations right, the reason for it being 11 acres is so that it would meet the, what I call the tipping point of the tower. If it fell over, it would remain on that deal. I agree with you that except for title to the underlying land, nothing has changed.
That is correct. And another comment that special use by review, those approvals run with the land and will not be affected by this at all.
Yeah, I was going to say and identical to the uses that are provided by the PUD proposed. So.
And the other observation, I drove out there just to have a look. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's what did you say? 4.5 miles from I-70, and it's within primarily a piece of land that's owned by one rancher.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything to add? Okay, and you'd accepted the conditions. Okay. So with that, I would accept a motion on this.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Mountain Tower RZ-21-0065 and the applicant agree to the conditions of approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close the public hearing on Mountain Tower RZ-21-0065.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're out of public hearing on this item.
If I let my accent come out, I'd say it's RZ.
That's not an accent, that's mispronunciation. Okay, the next item we have is some opening and continuance for the Miller Ranch service plans for Metro District and Water and Sanitation. The staff is recommending a continuance to January 12th of 2022. Was there anybody present representing Miller Ranch today, or? Okay, seeing none, I'd accept a motion to open and continue the public hearing until 1 p.m. on January 12th, 2022.
I'll make a motion, we open Miller Ranch Service Plan Amendment SR-21-0044 to be continued until January 12th at 1 p.m.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open and continue this hearing until January 12th of 2022. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I would just ask staff to, when this comes forward in January, would like to see at least a draft DGA or concept plan so we know how the funding of the service plans fits with the overall development. My understanding is parts of this are supposed to be funded via the developer directly, some through the service districts. And I think we need to make sure that everybody's in agreement who's funding what before we decide potentially that the service plans are adequate. So appreciate that.
I want to make sure there's no public comment.
Yeah. Any public comment at this time before we close for the continuance? Okay.
6060 County Road 41, Elbert. Do we have a mailing list on this one?
I would assume we do, and it would be.
It's not in the packet.
Well, our packet is one page, so if not in the packet for public, it would be available through.
But again, it was not in front of the Planning Commission. It's a required document, and the zoning requires
Ma'am,
it.
it is a required document for application. There are no required documents for the packet.
So we're not transparent.
Yes, ma'am, we're extremely transparent.
And then we're not putting a required document in for the public to see.
Those documents are available through open records request if they're not pertinent to
Through,
the decision being made.
I'm sorry, through what request?
An open records request,
I've
ma'am.
tried that until it's approved. I can't do an open records request because the packet is still I'm just letting you know how your own processes work. Thank you.
There are other reasons why you're not in receipt of open records requests, ma'am, and you're very well aware of those. It may not have been necessary to you. So with that, we'll close public comment unless there is any other.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'd accept a motion to close this hearing at this time.
I'll make a motion, we close Miller Ranch Service Plan Amendment SR-21-0044.
Second.
A motion and a second to close public hearing on the Miller Ranch Service Plans. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
the applicant for the next item has requested a brief recess, 5-minute recess,
Okay.
if that's possible.
All righty, we'll recess to 2:25, just so we keep it on evens, fives. All righty, the last item we have on the agenda today is consideration of a EDZ site plan for within the Prairie View Industrial Area for Burnco. I would accept a motion to open public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we open public hearing for Burnco EZS-20-0077.
Second.
A motion and a second to open public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're in public hearing. Again, same general format that we've followed for the previous hearing. Staff will present. We'll ask for any additional information from the applicant, open for public hearing, open for public comment, discuss any comments or questions that ourselves or the public may have, and then proceed to a decision. So, Matthew.
Alrighty, this is the Burnco Economic Development Site Plan, case number EZS 200077. And again, this is an economic development site plan for a concrete batch plant and administrative building on Lot 5 of Prairie View Industrial Park. The landowner is Big Pine Real Estate Investments. The applicant representative is Rob Vanderschaff from Burnco and Andy Rodriguez of Civil Resources. The location is 8750 Allen Ridge Drive, Kiowa, which is Lot 5 of the Prairie View Industrial Subdivision. Pre-application meeting was held on September 24th of 2020. Formal application was submitted on March 3rd of 2021. There were 2 referral periods, March 18th to April 8th, and June 2nd to the 16th. There were several BOCC dates that were continued at this point, originally noticed and scheduled for July 28th, but continued to October 27th and further continued to today, December 15th, 2021. Just to give a general vicinity overview of the site, this is Lot 5 in the Prairie View Industrial Subdivision. There are 8 lots total and was a part of the EDZ subdivision process. So these parcels are zoned agriculture, but within the EDZ, this is allowable. This is a 10-acre parcel of an overlying 57-acre subdivision. Again, I have 2 visuals here to kind of help. Most of the property that is along State Highway 86 here is a part of our economic development zone, and there are a number of properties on the southern side of State Highway 86 going westward to Elizabeth that are using this designation. To give a little bit of an outline of the site plan, the concrete batch plant itself will be located in close proximity to State Highway 86, where most of the property to the south, which is abutting agriculture zoning, will be left undeveloped. There will be some detention areas that are located in the southwest corner of the property as well, and some associated storage areas on the west portion of the property. You can see my mouse right here. The mouse isn't going through. Some storage areas to the west of the batch plant building, to the south as well, with employee parking on the east side. And that's just a zoomed in view of that with the storage areas on the west, the moon pools on the south, and the employee parking on the east. So from the referral process, the responding referral agencies above were consulted with, and the applicant was very good about acknowledging issues that came up and were discussed at that time. To discuss some of the water situation that has occurred with this property, given some of the conditions with the Prairie View Industrial Subdivision, I'll touch a little bit on the water available to this property. So to outline this, potable water is supplied by the Summit Park Metro District, and this will be provided by an underground water utility line that will stretch from Summit Park, which is around County Road 33, about 3/4 of a mile eastward to the Prairie View subdivision. This service plan was revised but was not made available to the county until about last week. So the details regarding this potable water service has not been reviewed in full. The well that is on the district's property that will be supplying potable water for Burnco needs to be re-permitted according to the Division of Water Resources. And there is an easement that was provided to the county as well for the property owner for 6 Arrow East that is lying in between the boundaries of Summit Park Metro District. As for the on-site industrial water, this will be serviced by a well, and there was an agreement for a 300-year supply by using the Arapahoe well, which is a currently approved plan for the first 100 years, and the Laramie Fox Hills aquifer for the following 200 years. And based on simple calculations, this well is permitted and following construction will be deeded to the district. But at this time, based on the current anticipated usage of Burnco, based on the water available, there's some outstanding concerns that still need to be addressed in regards to the on-site well that will be used. And touching on that in particular, the Groundwater Commission's determination 4135BD, which allows for this first 100 years of withdrawal. Those supply numbers that are listed previously are for the entirety of Prairie View, not just Lot 5. And the amount of water proposed to be used appears to exceed the available water supply. Moving on to the review criteria with the EDZ overlay, acknowledging that this is to promote an economic activity and mixed uses along select Elbert County travel corridors. I would like you to consider the following criteria for a site development plan. The use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. I'd like to touch on the fact that the EDZ has allowed for the commercial and industrial development along State Highway 86 in the previous approvals of Prairie View overall, 6 Arrow East, Legacy Business Park, and Summit Business Park, as well as Kiowa Industrial Park on the north side of State Highway 86. Other adjoining uses in the area are agricultural, but have the same ability to pursue commercial and industrial development. Given the spacing between Lot 5 and the surrounding agricultural lands, impact to the character of the neighborhood should be minimal, if any. Criteria B, the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure subject to mitigation. As the Prairie View Industrial Subdivision is still completing much of its early infrastructure improvements in a waterline extension from Summit Park and the completion of Allen Ridge Drive, for example, the impacts to infrastructure should be minimal at this time. The infrastructure being built was designed to serve the impacts produced by industrial businesses, and this request is in line with the anticipated demand from the Prairie View approval. Criteria C, the use will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Staff found that the traffic produced by the future business on Lot 5 will not produce more traffic than what was anticipated during the review and approval of the Prairie View Industrial Park in 2020. Improvements will continue to be made on behalf of the property owner to adequately address traffic impacts on State Highway 86 in the future. Criteria D, the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. We found that given the type of use proposed and the business practices described to CDS, air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution is anticipated to be minimal, if any. Criteria E, that all sanitation requirements will be met. The applicant is working closely with Elbert County Public Health to complete necessary requirements for sanitation systems and will complete any necessary requirements such as soils reports as a result. Criteria F, the use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. The applicant has provided some screening through landscaping with ponderosa pine and Gamble Oak along the southern edges of the lot to provide some level of buffering to the agricultural properties to the south. Limited landscaping is provided elsewhere on the property. The detention basin proposed in the southern portion of the property will be surrounded by seeding and mulching. The badge plant and other associated business areas are located in the northern portion of the property closest to the state highway, and the elevations and examples provided by the applicant will not be unsightly to motorists on State Highway 86. Criteria G, the use will not be otherwise detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. The applicant has been keen to address any and all issues raised by the county and referral agencies when prompted, and the use itself, if supplanted by the business's operations elsewhere, will not compromise the health, safety, or welfare of county residents and will provide a great economic opportunity for the county. And criteria F, leading to the supplemental standards for specific uses, there are no supplemental standards for the use proposed here. So we find Community and Development Services recommends the Board of County Commissioners approve the requested BurnCo EZS 20007 or 0077 EDZ site plan, subject to the following conditions. The conditions that are present in the staff report have been added to since the time of publication, and I will cover the following conditions now. The applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. The EDZ site plan shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the site development plan exhibit is recorded. Recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioners approval. The Prairie View Industrial Plat Notes will be included within the recorded exhibit. Condition 5. Record a completed private road maintenance agreement for Prairie View Industrial, which includes Allen Ridge Drive, before building permit approval can be issued. All conditions of approval for the Prairie View Industrial subdivision will be met prior to the issuance of any building permits associated with the development of Lot 5. Condition 7, prior to issuance of building permits on Lot 5, any material modifications for the Summit Park Metro District must receive BOCC approval for a service plan amendment for the line extension into the Prairie View Industrial Subdivision. Condition 8, well permit 78382F, which is the well that is located on Summit Park's property nearest to County Road 33, will be re-permitted and approved before issuance of building permits for Lot 5. And the final condition, condition 9, the applicant shall submit a photometric plan with full cutoff design and no off-site glare to adjacent properties prior to issuance of building permits for Lot 5. And that concludes my presentation.
Questions for staff at this time?
I've got several questions, but I'd like to hear the applicant first.
Okay. Anything specific as the applicant comes forward you want them to address?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. One is the conditions that are on the plat, the 300-year water. And I've done quite a bit of mathematics on the water determination. If I have interpreted it right, I would say that this application isn't ready for presentation yet. But I'm going to listen to hear if I'm wrong.
I too have concerns on water, but also a little bit on just technology, dust mitigation. I think light was covered here at the end, but noise, operating hours, that type of things. There are nearby neighbors. But with that, I'd invite the applicant to present.
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Vanderskoff. I'm the general manager of BurnCo, Colorado. Mr. Chairman and Board of County Commissioners, thank you for having us, and we appreciate your service to the community. I also want to thank Matt and Greg for their support. They came into this project very late, and they've worked very hard in the last few weeks, so thank you, gentlemen. BurnCo is a ready-mix concrete commercial-grade aggregate supplier in the Denver and Northern Front Range markets. BurnCo is a fifth-generation family company that has been in business for over 110 years. Our main office is in Calgary, and our office here in Colorado is Milliken, Colorado, in Weld County. Colorado business was purchased in 2017 by BurnCo. The business in Colorado as Bestway Concrete and Aggregates, and now BurnCo has been in business for 40-plus years. This project will bring good-paying jobs to the area as concrete mixer operators, equipment operators, mechanics, and supervisory roles. From the first presentation, it is apparent that there are growth projects ready, and having a concrete supply facility locally could help with costs and service to the community. BurnCo is a rural family-owned business that supports the communities and is very charitable. just last week, we donated a good deal of money to a veterans group in South Denver for a food drive. The family is very generous. We're very excited to join this community. We're excited to provide job opportunities and quality ready-mix concrete to your projects within the county. At this point, I'd like to introduce Andy Rodriguez with Civil Resources. He will do the rest of the presentation, and also Tom Maroney with Stewart Title. He'll be representing Burnco if there's any questions around the landowner or the water. Thank you very much.
Andy Rodriguez, Civil Resources. I help do the consulting and some of the planning work for Burnco. I'll jump right into the water supply. So Summit Park Metro District will supply the potable water supply for the office use and any sort of bathroom use. And as the development occurs, the industrial use will be from the non-tributary wells. So as Matt brought up, the Arapahoe has approximately 21.55 acre feet per year to be used. Burnco doesn't anticipate using that much ever in the first 100 years. And then there's additional supplies from the Laramie Fox Hills. That could be used for the 101 to the 300 year mark. Included in that is Summit can provide water from the Arapahoe, and the neighboring property owner, Leak, to the west, has additional water that the owner of Prairie, Big Pine, is looking to acquire. Go ahead. So this is the service area of Summit and the potable water. So you can see Summit's in red, and they will provide a water line that goes to the Prairie industrial subdivision through the Leak property. There's an easement that's been recorded about last week. And this water will come in and serve potable to all the lots. There's approximately 10 lots, I believe. Then there's going to be a proposed deep well that is located in that northwest corner. That's the Arapahoe well. That'll be drilled and provided for the industrial use of the concrete plant. This is the proposed concrete batch plant. As you can see, it looks like a gambrel barn. It's pretty attractive. It'll be offset from the road a little ways, and it'll stand just like that. This is looking to the south. So trucks will load from the south. So, yep. So here are existing batch plants that Burnco operates. The one's the Milliken batch plant. It has a very similar architecture, as you can see. It's located next to a wastewater treatment plant there and a reclaimed gravel pit in a farm area. It's pretty clean and looks very attractive. And this is one of their more recent builds. This is the Fort Lupton concrete batch plant. Again, this is located right off of a highway, very similar to 86. County area. It's agriculture and industrial around that corridor there. I think that's it. Is that the last one? Should I sit down? You guys want to ask me questions now? Or questions, or should I have Tom come up? Okay. Questions of them?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tom Maroney, P.O. Box 902. I am the representative for Big Pine Real Estate. As you know, I've worked on most of the EDZ projects that have come before here. I still think it's a good idea. It's just a lot of things. There's a lot there. As you know, the original thought behind this was to try to promote and expedite the zoning process, or just not having to go through the zoning process. So we've been through this a lot, and I guess we found out that there's a little bit more to it than we originally met the eye. Okay, so this is a learning process, and I think we all understand that. I want to point a few things out, but what I would like to do is I would like to request 5 minutes that I can talk to the applicants. I apologize. I just got out of the hospital a couple days ago, and they called me, and I said I'll come over and see what I can do. But I wanted to listen to their presentation, and I have some things I'd like to ask them. So if I could have like 5 or 10 minutes, I'd sure appreciate it. I don't like waste your time.
Yeah, let's take a recess till 3. One, I'd like to throw in the mix of discussions, just noted when I was looking at the photos and then back at the plan views you provided. It looks like the overall height of the structure minus the towers was 42 feet. I think we've got a 35-foot
I am
max
I'm not
height.
familiar with that, but I will address that.
Yeah, please, yeah, just before we,
Again, we add another layer of
yeah.
things that, not everything's just 35 feet.
I just want to make sure
want to
that's.
point out, I mean,
Yeah,
this is a corridor.
I know there's exceptions for towers, antennas, steeples. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that we
no.
don't come back and there's one more thing.
I just don't, I want to waste anybody else, I don't want to waste a lot of time.
Okay.
I'd like to make one comment, is if it's determined that this application is incomplete, the applicant has an option to either ask for a continuance to complete the loose items, or they can ask for a vote and take the risk of them having to start over.
I understand
So,
that, that's why I need this app, that's why I need this.
Okay, but that's a real option that you have,
I understand
and
that, yes, sir.
the water is an issue.
That's why I'm here.
All righty.
We don't need to make things any harder than they need to be. So thank you, we'll be back at 3.
3, yeah, okay. We're in recess. Thanks.